Erev Shabbos Kodesh Parashat Mishpatim, the Torah tells us the story of a man who fell on hard times. He couldn't support his family, he couldn't pay his bills. And he goes and he sells himself as a slave. And he works as a slave for 6 years. That's your maximum, because a person can't sell themselves forever. But the Torah goes on with the story and says, well, 6 years passed, and the man can go free, but he looks around at his life, he looks at his master, he says, I really love you, I love this household. I don't mind what I'm doing. I'd like to stay a slave. At this time, we take him to the doorway, and we stand him next to the mezuzah, and we pierce his ear. Why his ear? Because we tell him that this ear heard at Mount Sinai that you Jewish people are slaves to me, and you shouldn't be slaves to slaves. And now you're going and you're making yourself into a slave? Pierce. But of course the question is, this is a 6-year-old transgression. He sold himself as a slave years ago. Why only now, when he could go free and he decides that he wants to stay further, do we pierce his ear? And the answer is that life is life, and it is such that sometimes we do what we don't want to do, even what we shouldn't do. And somehow God can tolerate that and forgive us for that, but then we have to know when to stop. So originally, you were in hard times. Now, you're free. Go out, make something of yourselves. You need to know when to stop. One of the primary mitzvahs of the Torah is the mitzvah of Shabbos. 6 days you shall work, and the 7th day shall be a day of rest. Who has a problem with a day of rest? We love days of rest. So why does anybody have a problem with keeping the Shabbos? It's not because we don't want to rest. It's because we don't know how to stop. We're in the middle of work. We're in the middle of making money. We're in the middle of planting a field. How can I stop? And it's this point that God tells us, and the Torah tells us, take a step back, pause, and learn how to stop. Reflect on the idea that God the Almighty is controlling your finances, controlling your sustenance. Do what you have to do. For 6 days you shall work, but you need to know when to stop, and you need to know how to stop. For us, we do what we do, and life is life. But sometimes we just have to know how to sit down. We have to know how to rest, and we have to know how to stop and say, God is in charge of this picture, and I'm just going to leave it to him. Shabbat Shalom u'mevarach.